Hey guys, sorry I'm not there. Had to take the baby to a doctor's appointment. So I'm making you a video with a couple of examples. And then at the end of the video, I'll show you your independent practice. So I'm going to go through these, kind of teach like I normally would, say things like I normally would while we're going through the problems, things you should watch out for, pay attention for, that kind of stuff. So at any point, the cool thing about me putting a video in Google Classroom for you is that at any point, if you're stuck, you could always rewind and watch things over and over again. Or when you get to your independent practice, you can go back and rewatch that example that looks like that question or whatever. So it's kind of a better thing, I think, almost, that you have a video to look back on. So let's get started. Example 1, we need to solve y equals 6x minus 8 4x. So we have to isolate x, get x by itself. So in my mind, I'm saying to myself, what is on the same side of x that I need to get rid of? I'm going to need to get rid of the 6 because that's touching the x, and then I need to get rid of the subtract 8. So remember, we want to solve it using PEMDAS, but kind of backwards. So I'm going to look for addition or subtraction to get rid of first, and then I'm going to look for multiplication and division to get rid of next. That's not always the case. There are exceptions to the rule, but that's a pretty good general rule to look for. So I see a subtract 8, which means I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So this side now looks like y plus 8 equals 6x, because this canceled. And now I have to get rid of the 6. And 6 is connected to x by multiplication, so I'm going to divide. And then I'm going to divide. Now, this is the weird part. A lot of kids want to make one big division problem and put 6 underneath it. Don't do it. I'm getting you prepared for next chapter, and next chapter is going to require us to individually divide each thing out. So I'm going to divide y by 6, and I'm going to divide 8 by 6. You're going to have to get over the fact that there's fractions for answers, okay? Pretty much every problem you get from now on is going to have some sort of fraction answer. So to combat this, remember that there's an invisible 1 in front of that y. So I'm going to separate that fraction away from the y. So what I have is 1/6. I got the 1 from here, and I got the 6 from here. And then I'm going to put y next to it. Again, that's going to help us with next chapter, so just get used to formatting like this. You don't know why you're doing it yet. Next chapter, you will understand why I'm having you do this. I'm just getting you ready. I promise. I know what I'm doing, and I know what you need to be able to do. So just trust me, okay? Pull that fraction away from your variable. And then the second number here is 8 over 6, so I'm just going to reduce that to 4 over 3. That's good to go. Don't make it 1 1/3. That's unnecessary at this point, remember. And now finally x is by itself. So this equation is solved for x. Okay, example 2. A similar problem, but now I'm solving for y. So I'm going to take this equation, 4x minus 2y equals 1, and I'm going to solve for y instead. The good thing is that the process, or your thinking process, is not any different. So I'm going to identify what is here and what I need to get rid of. So I need to get rid of the 4x, and I need to get rid of this negative 2. So again, PEMDAS, I'm going to get rid of the stuff that's being added or subtracted first, which happens to be stuff with a variable on it. So I need to get rid of this whole term first. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. There's a little 1 over there. Don't lose him. I know my handwriting is bad. So this cancels. Don't lose your negative. 1 minus 4x. Okay. And then I need to get rid of the negative 2. The negative 2 is connected to y by multiplication, so I'm going to use division. And just like in our last problem, I'm going to divide each individual term by negative 2. Each individual one, okay? So y is by itself, I've got 1 over negative 2. That negative is allowed to float wherever it needs to. I taught you that last year in 7th grade. If you remember, great. If you don't, I taught you again. Stick that negative in the numerator, in the top of your fraction. Again, I'm getting you ready for next chapter. There's a reason you're going to want to put it in the top of your fraction. The second term here, negative 4 over negative 2. Negative, negative in a division problem is a positive 2. Tack on your x. Technically, you're done. You did what the question asked you to do. However, again, taking it a step further, because I know what you need next chapter, you're going to want to rearrange this so that your x term is first. So all I did was swap their places, and I put the x term first. Again, there's a reason for that. It's coming next chapter, okay? Just trust me and do what I ask you to. I know, that's a lot. But I love you, and you love me, so you're going to do it. Or at least I like to pretend like you love me. Okay, last example is not a typical solve for x like we just did. This one is actually just an equation, but they word it like that because they're trying to confuse you. So they'll say, solve blah, 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 all this crazy nonsense for x. And what they're trying to trick you into thinking is that you have to do all this stuff and that you should end up with like another variable somewhere. But when you look at your problem, the only variable you have in here is x. So when you solve for x, what you're really doing is solving it like a normal equation. So this should not be any different for you than what we've been working with before with just regular equations. So I'm going to use the distributive property on this first one, and I'm going to get 12x minus 4. This little x that's hanging out here is not inside the parentheses, so do not distribute 4 to that x. He's by himself, so he's still just chilling out there. When I look at the second half of this equation, the 4 is connected to this 3 with subtraction, but the 3 is connected to this group by multiplication, and multiplication comes before subtraction. So I'm actually going to distribute first. Ignore that 4 temporarily. Don't let them trick you because they want you to think you have to do 4 minus 3 first. Don't do it. Multiplication comes first. So the 4 is chilling. Negative 3 times x and negative 3 times 1. Now you're going to go through your problem and look for any of the like terms. I'm going to color code some stuff here for you. So I've got an x term here, an x term here, an x term here. These two are on the same side, so I'm going to just put them together first. This one has nothing to put with it, but I do have some regular constants or regular numbers going on. Okay, these two are on the same side, so I'm going to put them together and get a 1. And now I'm going to fill the rest in with what was missing. So this equal sign's still here in the middle. I've got a negative 4 here that I didn't combine with anything. And I've got a minus 3x that I didn't combine with anything, and that one was positive. Okay, now I'm going to move the 3x, well, negative 3x. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides. Why? Because I want positive coefficients. I want positive numbers in front of my variables, if I can help it. Sometimes you can't, and that's okay. Add 4. I'm going to do some work over here because I'm running out of room. And I get 16x equals 5. Ew. But it's okay. Deal with fractions. Divide by 16, divide by 16. X is 5/16 because that's as reduced as it can get. Okay? So, now what you need to do is get out a piece of paper, put your name on it, period 6, obviously. Today's date if you feel like it, if not, no big deal. And then you're going to go try to do these 6 independent practice problems. And feel free to go back through the video and watch any of the examples that look like these problems. So example 1 and 2 would fall for 1, 2, and 3, and then example 3 would fall for 4, 5, and 6. Show me all of your work because I want to be able to figure out where it is that you're confused. Okay, so you have the rest of the class period to work on this. Keep it in your binder since you're in Miss Brown's room right now. And then tomorrow when you come in for class, you'll turn it in for some credit. Okay? Be good.